Undersquad Lessons, West failed to put Putin's ambition and downgraded NATO. The mistake should not be repeated with Quad. Vladimir Putin imprison anyone who calls the invasion of war. His version is that it was a special military operation akin to India's police action against Hyderabad in 1948. This article admittedly written in the hindsight, but there is a continuous threat to the Western blunders in the approach to deal with the Moscow, particularly concerning Putin. What should have brought Putin to the notice of the West were his first two achievements: the stabilization and increase in the oil production, export that has hugely increased the Russian GDP, and secondly, with the successful suppression of Chechnya revolt. Chechnya revolt. It is understandable that economic prosperity grew in Europe and Eastern European nations clamored to join the European Union. The West therefore failed to connect Putin's invasion of Georgia with his continuing vision to fight the regime change in Ukraine in 2015. What is the cardinal error made by NATO? What can the Quad lessons from this unnecessary war? Indo-Pacific is not continental Europe. War in the Indo-Pacific will be maritime war fought in the accordance with the maritime strategy and space assets. Rule of engagement are vastly different. The big question, why is the Quad appeasing Beijing? In actual fact, the Quad, as Admiral Papro admitted, is all about maritime domain awareness, underwater domain awareness and information sharing, all of them purely naval activities which needs continuous communication that is catered for command organization and secretariat, neither of which we have, because Quad is a diplomatic grouping. The military is trained to think structurally. India sees it as an obstructionist, aggressive, land-grabbing competitor. US see it as an ideological, hegemonistic competitor. Japan and Australia are ideological allies of the US. The great maritime strength of Quad is its force of maritime patrol aircraft. Japan and the US are particularly rich in those resources. It would be successful to establish an Indo-Pacific situations plot at Visakhapatnam, backed by an elite naval staff to watch the transformation of China from the regional power in the world-class navy. Quad meetings should be headed by naval officers with diplomatic support so that they don't produce irrelevant communiques like the one in February 2022 that spoke dealing with COVID, climate change and natural disaster. Next article is related to ripple effect reform. Any reform or initiative that strengthens the land governance impacts the economy positively and has a ripple effect across the sector. Consider this: computerization and digitization of land record undertaken in the recent past has enabled the e-procurement of wheat and paddy in the states through the MSP scheme. This is extremely convenient now for the Mandi administration to make access for the food crop shown and food grain produced by the individual farmers on basis of CASRA entries. Most states now use computerized land records for e-procurement. Pradhan Mantri Kishan in the states are being done on the basis of computerized land records. Proper updated computerized land records are extremely essential for relief and rehabilitation. First, unique land parcel identification number ULPN. In plain language, this is an Aadhaar linked identification for land parcel or plot. Binami and fraudulent transfer of land, especially in urban areas, is a big concern for state. Second, national generic document registry system, one nation, one registration software system, is undoubtedly a major initiative for urban property registration. Third initiative is translating the land records in any language under Schedule 8 of the Constitution. The objective is to break the linguistic barrier in the land record. Presently, land records are largely in regional languages. This linguistic barrier needs to be overcome in order to open up the language national economy. A prospective property buyer from Maharashtra should be conveniently get access to the land records of Tamil Nadu in his language. Okay, this is what the article is all about. Next one is cyclone Asani to develop in Bay of Bengal. The year's first cyclone is set to develop in Bay of Bengal around March 21, called Asani, a name given by Sri Lanka as on the meteorological department. Okay, the next article is related to US rate hike and markets. As anticipated, the Fed has raised the interest rate. However, rather than fall as they usually do after such a move, market in India elsewhere rose. What explains this behavior and what should investors do? On Wednesday, US Federal Reserve decided to hike the benchmark interest rates for the first time since 2018 to rein the rising inflation in the world's largest economy. While this was the first rate hike by Fed in 3 years, it was also indicated that it will raise interest rates 6 more times this year, which could take the interest rates higher by 1.75% by the end of the year. The move is aimed at keeping a check on inflation, which faces an additional threat on account of war in Ukraine. How does an interest rate hike in US impacts the market? An interest rate hike in US results in inflow of funds from emerging markets and into US Treasury bond. The outflow weakens the equity market and leads to correction. Experts feel that FPI having already pulled out the funds in anticipation of rate hike and are unlikely to go for knee-jerk reaction now. Next article is related to from US to Ukraine drones that serve as missile. Some drones fire missiles which others are missiles themselves. Later called kamikaze or suicide drones are part of tranky weapons being sent by US to help Ukraine in the war. Also called switchblade drones, these are small unmanned aircraft packed with an explosives, can be flown directly at the tank or group of troops and explode on hitting. Okay. Kamikaze drones are difficult to detect on radar and can even be programmed to hit targets without human intervention. Drones are called switchblade because their blade-like wing spring out on launch. Switchblade has a feature that allows the operator to adjust the blade radius. This is what the article is all about. Next article is related to why Parliament panel criticized caste-based Manrega wage payment. Parliament Standing Committee on Rural Development and Panchayat Raj has asked the government to roll back the system of the caste-based wages under Manrega workers are paid based on whether they belong to SC, ST and or others. The panel asked the Minister of Rural Development to restore the earlier system by which single fund transfer order was generated without any sort of segregation on the basis of caste. Under the new system, if 20 individuals, say 6 SCs, 4 STs and 10 other work together at a site under Manrega, single muster roll could be issued and payment would be done by issuing 3 separate fund transfer order, one for each of the 3 categories. After the new system came into force in April 2021, some beneficiaries started complaining that despite working at the same site, registering on the same master roll, they are getting their wages at different times depending upon their category. Beneficiaries in other category, which includes general and OBC category, especially complained of delays. Economically weak populace can come and from any region classed. Creation of such payment system wherein one specific community is preferred over the others slowly on the ground of caste will give rise to resentment and create rift among the beneficiaries of Manrega. Why is the system of caste-based wage introduced? Introduced to accurately reflect on the ground flow of funds to various population groups. Next article is related to Biden brand Putin a war criminal. Moscow decries his remark. The term applies to anyone who violates who is a war criminal. This term applies to anyone who violates a set of rules adopted by world leaders known as a law of armed conflict. The rules govern how countries behave in the time of war. Those rules have been modified and expanded over the past century, drawn from Geneva Convention in the aftermath of World War II and protocols added later on. Next article talks about Europe rover mission to Mars suspended, ExoMars rover mission with partner Roscosmos, Russia State Space Corporation. Next article is Green Triangle. It is named after Mahatma Gandhi, was jointly inaugurated in Madagascar capital Antananarivo. Okay, 75th independence, Green Triangle is named. Okay. Next article, last one is related to ruble trade scheme on the table. Structure may be earlier Iran deal. Center is in the process of working out a rupee ruble arrangement with Russia to allow the trade between the countries to continue even after sanctions of European Union. They are working on some rupee-ruble type arrangement. Nothing has been finalized yet. The official added the exchange rate between the currency would be based on the rate with the third currency. Russia include pharmaceuticals, mobile phones and seafoods. Bilateral merchandise trade stood at US dollar 10.75 billion in the first 10 months of this fiscal year, with the exporting goods worth about dollar 2.8 million, exporting goods worth US dollar 7.9 million. How crypto legalization in Ukraine has aided in its war. Ukraine's first crypto exchange, Kuna, will no longer limited to helping the country spend donation directly with the crypto-friendly supplier, but to convert the crypto to much needed fiat. That's all. If you like the video, please do share, like and subscribe.